Hey girlies, and welcome to my channel. This is actually my first ever video on here. So yeah, I'm a little excited but also quite nervous, so if I stutter here and there, just be kind. So sit down, relax, grab your coffee, your tea, whatever it is that you like to drink, your matcha, and get cozy because we're gonna be talking quite a lot about this. So what is cycle syncing? It's basically the concept of adapting your exercise and your lifestyle to the phases of your menstrual cycle. If you are someone who has been active or on platforms like Instagram, TikTok, all these other platforms, then you probably have seen this before, where basically they're recommending what sort of exercises you should do during the different phases of your cycle. And so the first thing that I want to do is sort of bust down some of the misconceptions around this topic so that you are a little bit more educated on this topic. While the concept itself is sort of beneficial, because what we're doing is basically we're saying, well, we are women, and so we probably need a different way of approaching our exercise routine to the typical way that, you know, men usually approach it. And so the concept itself is really innocent. However, the way that it has been marketed is a little bit misleading. But listen, I get it. This entire conversation is really stemming from one big rooted problem, and that is that there is a lack of representation for women in health research studies, but also just in general in the health and fitness world. And so instead of completely ignoring the fact that we do experience fluctuations in our hormones throughout our menstrual cycle, why don't we try to take a different approach that is also grounded in research and evidence, but also takes into consideration the fluctuations in our hormones. And that is what I'm going to be talking about today. What can you do instead of the standard cycle syncing that you've seen online to help regulate your exercise routine based off of your own body and your own needs? Let's first dive into the whole menstrual cycle, because I think most women don't really know what the menstrual cycle is and what are the different phases of the menstrual cycle. So that's what I'm going to be educating you on first. So the two main sex hormones that fluctuate throughout the menstrual cycle are estrogen and progesterone. Now, the effects of estrogen is that it has an anabolic effect on your skeletal muscles, which basically means it helps you build muscle. It also increases muscle glycogen storage, which is great because it helps you fuel your body with enough energy, especially during exercises. It promotes the use of glucose for energy. It increases basal metabolic rate, also known as resting metabolic rate, which can contribute to feeling higher energy levels. Now, the effects of progesterone are that it decreases insulin sensitivity, which makes it harder for the body to take up glucose. Exercise can actually increase your insulin sensitivity, making it very important in regulating the effect of hormones like progesterone. Another thing that it does is it increases your metabolic rate, also leading to higher energy utilization. And so I want you to think of these two hormones as, rather than working against each other, they tend to work with each other just to balance the effects of one another. So the first phase is the menstrual phase, which is days 0 to 7. This is usually when the woman gets her period. So the lining of the uterus sheds, causing some bleeding. Estrogen at this point is at its lowest point, which can mean that it's accompanied by some physical discomfort. So it can be abdominal cramps, headaches, lower back aches, and even nausea. The next one is the follicular phase, which is days 8 to 13. During this phase, estrogen rises, causing the endometrium layer in the ovaries to thicken. Now, a rise in estrogen can also mean a rise in energy levels, so you might be feeling a little bit higher in terms of your energy levels. Next is the ovulation phase, which is days 14 to 15. During this phase, your ovaries release an egg, which means you have the highest chance of getting pregnant. And during this phase, estrogen rises at its peak, while progesterone is really at its lowest. And then the last phase is the luteal phase, which is days 16 to 28. Progesterone rises to prepare the uterus to receive a fertilized egg. And during this phase, many women will experience PMS, or premenstrual syndrome, which are symptoms that can lead to lower energy and lower mood as well. So what does the research currently say? Well, a lot of it is conflicting. Some research studies actually show that there is better exercise performance during the early follicular, ovulatory, and mid-luteal phase. Other research just shows there's really no significant difference at all. But basically, all in all, the evidence points to the fact that there is no one-size-fits-all guideline, at least not yet. And so that's why I'm prioritizing in this video the fact that you need to listen to your body. And so what I'm going to talk about for today is how you can actually use things like your nutrition, your just lifestyle routine in a way that can actually reduce those variations of your menstrual cycle. Once we do that, then we can move on to the second step, which is noticing the patterns of our menstrual cycle and how that affects our exercise performance. The first one is to eat enough. Let's be honest, most women out there are not eating enough, and they're not getting enough micro and micronutrients to nourish their body so that they can first of all have a regular cycle, and then second of all actually perform the best that they can, whether that is in the gym or whether they're runners or whether they're athletes. And so if you're not getting enough nutrients, especially protein, fat, fiber into your diet, then these are things that you need to make sure that you're adding. But yeah, first of all, try to eat everything that you can to actually support your performance. Now, the next thing that you're gonna do is what I like to say, work up the pyramid of optimal performance. So imagine this is the pyramid, and obviously the lowest is the most priority, and then as you go higher, you go to the more lower priority. But let's talk about what is the biggest priority when it comes to achieving optimal performance, and that is sleep. Sleep is huge when it comes to repairing your muscle damage, which is what happens every time you do go to the gym or every time you do exercise. And also it helps in restoring energy levels. So if you are someone that experiences lots of low energy levels throughout your day or throughout especially your menstrual cycle, then maybe take a look at what your sleep looks like. And so the optimal amount of sleep is different for everyone. Usually for women, it's actually a little bit more than for men because of just the amount of hormones that we have to deal with. There's a little bit more science involved, and if you want me to make another video going more in depth about that, then feel free to comment that down below. Next in the line is stress. High stress can actually lead to chronically elevated levels of cortisol. Cortisol is the hormone in our body that is sort of released in response to stress. It triggers more of our fight and flight system. But ultimately, when we do have high cortisol levels over a prolonged period of time, that actually impairs the body's ability to repair muscle and recover. And if you're not recovering, then you're not going to give your best whenever you go to the gym or whenever you go do your exercise or your workout. So try incorporating a few relaxation routines in your day-to-day life. Usually what that looks like for me is it's pretty hard to relax in the mornings and in the evenings because those are the times where I'm working and I don't really have the time for it. But what you could definitely do, and what I do, is before you go to sleep, actually create a wind down routine that incorporates some of those relaxation methods. This could be things like doing meditation, stretches, journaling, maybe even just doing something for your spiritual wellness. Next one is hydration. Hydration is a big one because research actually shows that dehydration will actually increase your rate of perceived exertion. Basically what that means is that just by being dehydrated, you're gonna feel a lot weaker when you go and exercise and do your workout and go to the gym or whatever sport that you like to play. Dehydration can also negatively impact our levels of electrolytes and essential minerals in our body. So things like magnesium, calcium, potassium, chloride. These are all really essential nutrients in our body that actually maintain muscle function. So if you want your muscles to work and you want to reduce your risk of injury, then you need to make sure that you are hydrating. And so usually the recommended amount is drink half of your body weight in pounds in ounces. So if you weigh 160 pounds, then you need to drink 80 ounces of water a day. So now we have finally worked up the pyramid. Let's say you have reached the peak. First of all, you're eating enough, you've regulated your sleep, your stress, your hydration. What's next? Following a structured training program. The biggest mistake that people make is that when they train or plan their exercise, it's not a consistent thing. And so how can you expect your body to adapt to what you're giving it if you're not being regular or consistent with whatever it is that you are doing? But constantly changing your exercise routine will only diminish all the results that you got. And so if there's one thing that you need to do is to make sure that you are following a structured program, that every week you're essentially doing the same thing. And so once you have a structured program, now you can start actually tracking the patterns that you actually feel throughout the stages of your menstrual cycle and how that's impacting you, and how other factors other than just your menstrual cycle is also impacting you, like sleep, stress, hydration, food, whatever it may be. Another thing that you could start using to actually track patterns in terms of how you feel during your workouts is called rate of perceived exertion. What that means is it helps you gauge how hard you feel like you're working. So you can use a scale of 0 to 10, and then some days, which happens quite a bit, is we'll actually be doing an exercise where usually we're at a 5, but we feel like we're giving out on a 9. And so that way you're actually able to regulate how you feel while you're working out and adjust your workout based off of that level of effort that you feel like you're making. So I think the biggest mistake that you can do is actually force your body into a place where it is not there yet. And so we see this a lot, and it's a very masculine mentality where even though you feel tired, you still push and you push and you push harder than what your body is able to take. And if I can give you a piece of advice, it would be to listen to your body. If you don't feel like you're up for it, if it's your first day on your period and you just don't feel like you're feeling it today in whatever sport that you're doing, then maybe try to back off a little bit. And so let's say you do show up to your workout session and you feel like you are just unable to give out the same energy that you usually do. A great way that you can adjust your routine is taking longer rest periods, lowering the number of reps that you're doing, the number of sets that you're doing, maybe even lowering or backing off of the weight. And another thing that you can do is just take longer warm-ups and cool downs just to give your body a little bit more time for recovery. And so after you've done all that, you have made sure that you eat enough. You have made sure that you sleep all the sleep that you feel like your body needs to feel optimal. Made sure that you are actually regulating your stress levels, regulating your hydration levels, and also are going on a structured workout regimen or structured training plan. Now is the point where you start to collect data on your body and how you feel throughout your menstrual cycle. And it's key to make sure that you leave this as the last step, just so that you're making sure that nothing else is impacting the fluctuations of your menstrual cycle, and you're sort of at a baseline where you can actually track and find out how it fluctuates throughout your cycle. Try to see how your energy levels change, your mood, even your hunger levels, and just see if you can identify any recurring patterns that are happening over and over and over again, month after month after month. And once you do that, you can actually begin to change your workout plan in a way that actually meets the needs of your body and how your body fluctuates throughout the menstrual cycle. And so now we're actually, first of all, making sure that we're prioritizing the biggest things that impact our performance, and then we're working around the fluctuations of our menstrual cycle to help us develop a workout routine and a training program that works perfectly for our own bodies. I'll say this once again for the last time because it's that important. All of our bodies are different. I really encourage you to start experimenting with yourself, with your body, start understanding it, start really developing a way of communicating and allow it to communicate to you. And that is how you basically guide every decision that you make, whether that's nutrition, whether that's exercise, whether that's just your lifestyle and your daily routine. And basically that's all for today's video. I know that it's probably a more complicated process than you thought. I think a lot of times, especially in the fitness world and health world, things are oversimplified. Make sure that you're always being skeptical, look at the research, look at the evidence, and then make informed decisions. And yeah, let me know if there's anything else that you want to see that is women's health and fitness related. I'm gonna try to post a little bit more on this channel. And I guess that's it for today. So I'll see you all girlies the next time I guess I make a video. Bye.